I'm back, bitches.
Hear ye. Another edition of the First and Short podcast is now in order with JJ and the Goose. The podcast is brought to you by Creative T-Shirts and Imaging on Hillsborough Street. If you haven't checked them out, these guys make some pretty cool T-shirts. I'm looking at one of theirs right now. It's an original design of the wolf. Hell, I wish I went to NC State so I could get one. Today we'll be discussing our Donk of the Week. JJ, who you got?
Oh man, maybe it's a little unoriginal, and maybe I'm beating a dead horse here. But Mr. Gary Bettman, come on down. You have been selected for the Donk of the Week by me, JJ, because you guys had a goal of November 2nd of starting this season. It's October 25th, and how are talks going? Oh wait, they're not, because earlier this week you said it was best for the two sides to just step away. Yeah, because now a deal is definitely going to fall into your lap, Mr. Bettman. Stepping away is exactly what you guys needed to get the CBA revised and ready to roll so we can get a season going. It sucks because the Carolina Hurricanes have made all these moves in the offseason, got people really excited in the Raleigh area, and you know what? They're going to be excited for an empty PNC arena until state basketball takes it over and fucks everybody up this year. Goose, who's your Donk of the Week?
I like how you slipped that in at the end. That was very clever of you.
Well,
just quick comment on Bettman in the NHL situation. Not that I care. I think it's a great time for the Hurricanes. I'm just saying, last lockout, Stanley Cup champions coming out of that lockout. Just saying. And, you got to turn a profit. And the deal just wasn't working for the owners. Bettman is a stooge for the owners, all right? So who you should really be upset at is the owners. He's a representation of the owners. He does what the owners tell him to do. He's a puppet. They move.
He's one of the three stooges.
The owners take their hand, shove it up his ass, and move his mouth like a puppet. So he's only doing what the owners are telling him to do. They're giving him his marching orders. Be mad at them. They're the donks. But for this week, so many donks, so little time, but I had to land on Carolina's own starting quarterback, Cam Newton. Now, I'm starting to see stories, Warren Moon saying he's getting a lot of heat because he's black and blah, blah, blah about that. I'm kind of sick of Cam. I don't agree with that. Cam's getting a lot of a lot of criticism because he's not playing very well. In fact, he's playing terrible. And he's got a piss-poor attitude on the sideline, throwing a towel over his head. And in post-game interviews, he's referring to female journalists as sweethearts.
Sweetheart.
Yo, Cam, she's got a college degree. She's an educated journalist. She's fighting a boy's world to be in there and interview you. Don't belittle her by calling her sweetheart. She's a professional. This is a professional environment. This is your job. It's a public image job, and she's asking you a question. You don't get to call her sweetheart. I don't need that. Oh, and then he goes on to subtly blame other people than himself. And he says, and I quote, "The past couple of games has been the same script by the same director. It's kind of getting boring, this taste, this vibe. I'm not buying it, man. And I don't know what it is, but something's going to have to change. Something's going to have to change real fast." You know, we don't need to change real fast, Cam. Your attitude, all right?
Hey, they fired the GM the next day.
Look, I'm not a fan of the GM, but I feel like what he's really going after in that case is the coach. And while I don't think Ron Rivera is Bill Belichick in waiting, you know what, Cam? Why don't you get on the same page with him? And it's getting kind of boring. You get paid millions of dollars to understand and read and execute the game plan. It shouldn't be boring to you. You should be quite motivated to be a part of that, all right? And by the way, it's the same game plan as last year that you didn't think was boring. And I don't think it's all Cam's fault this team isn't very good. I don't think it was well put together. I think they should run the ball more. But if you're the quarterback and you're supposed to be the face of a franchise, it's not your job to get out there and criticize coaching staff. It's not your job to get out there and call female reporters sweethearts. Your job is to take responsibility. Your job is to play better. Hey, Cam, whose fault was it that you bounced past a potential game-winning touchdown against the Seahawks? Was that the script's fault? Was that the GM's fault? Or was that you not being able to complete A what? A 10-yard pass?
In his defense, that's the first thing they teach you in rec basketball. Bounce pass.
Oh yeah, I mean
Paper.
if his name was Steve Nash, it was pretty. But it's not basketball. He's not Steve Nash, and he should be able to complete that pass. The guy was wide open. It was his fault. And I want to see him, Cam Newton, take a little more responsibility and have a little less throwing the towel over the head motions during games. His own receiver, Steve Smith, has called him out this season on his attitude. So he needs to get it together. And I understand for Cam that's difficult.
Hey, you're not even going to say anything about what he did during the bye week? Going to haunted houses, going to the movies, playing video games.
Look, I'm not saying the guy has to live, eat, breathe, sleep, dream football 24 hours a day. If he puts in his 8 to 10 to 12 hours, whatever it is, go to haunted houses on your off time. But when you have a bad game, I'm sorry?
He admitted to not being prepared. He admitted to not preparing like he did last year for a game. That's
Are you serious?
A huge red flag. He said that during the bye week when they asked him what he thinks is wrong, and he said he was talking to his father. Father's always involved. You notice this? And he said, it's not a direct quote, but he said something to the tune of, I got away from the little things that helped me succeed at times last year. I'm not as prepared as I was.
Wow. Well, yeah, well, that certainly is a problem. I mean, if you're the quarterback, you've got to be the most prepared. I almost see where it's coming from. This is a guy who's never failed in his life. I'm assuming in high school he was, out just above the class. He goes to college, gets kicked out of Florida, goes undefeated, wins the national championship in JUCO. Goes to Auburn, goes undefeated, wins the Heisman Trophy, wins another national title. Comes to Carolina, even though the team played badly last year, Cam was the man last year. It was Cam Newton. And coming into the season, the expectations were blown out of proportion. I've actually seen some of his numbers. They aren't that different except in regards to passing yards. And I think this team has seriously gotten away from the run game.
Yeah, it makes no sense.
Yeah, they signed $43.5 million of guaranteed money to Stewart and Williams, and they don't use them. They brought in Colbert on top of that.
Here's what you need to know. As much money those guys are being paid, in both of my leagues, at least one or the other is a free agent in fantasy football. That tells you about how crappy they've been doing and how bad the game plans have been for the Panthers.
No, I don't think the team has been well run. But you know what, Cam? Why don't you be a company man? Get out there and toe the company line. Say something like, I need to do more. I'm not doing my job. I don't want to hear it's the script. And you're getting bored. Well, I'm sorry, Cam, that playing quarterback in the NFL isn't exciting enough for you. Preparing for games every Sunday isn't exciting.
I feel bad for him. That does sound really shitty being an NFL quarterback.
Yeah. So
sounds way worse than what I do.
And with all that said, I still like Cam. I think Cam is a giant ball of potential. I mean, I think people who are starting to criticize that maybe the Panthers made a mistake in drafting him are crazy. I, as a Niner fan, would kill to have Cam on the team right now. I think, still has every chance to become a top 10 quarterback in this league. But he's got to get this attitude turned around, start looking at himself and not others to improve this team.
Well, if you as a Niners fan want him so bad, we'll trade you Cam Newton for Alex Smith. But we'll also trade our defense for yours at the same time.
Oh, that's super fair. I was about to say, I'll take Alex Smith for Cam Newton straight up any day. Although I think...
Yeah, but we also want 11 defensive starters for our 11. We'll even give you our top 13 defensive players.
Yeah, that's a fair trade. No, and actually, I like Kaepernick, so things looking up there. But that's a different story. I think the real issue with the Panthers is because of all the terrible signings that they've made, they got no cap flexibility.
The GM needed to go.
But here's the deal. What's the new GM going to come in and do? He's got no cap space to maneuver. I mean, the best they could do is at the end of next year, or at the end of this year, release Williams, release Stewart, release Johnson.
No. There you go. Release Johnson.
Oh, no, I think you've got to release...
Dude. Marnie Herney, the GM who got fired, gave Johnson $32 million in guaranteed money.
He made him one of the
32.
I understand, one of the highest paid defensive players that never went to a Pro Bowl. Great decision. You got to do it.
What the hell?
Anytime you can bring back the core to a 6-10 team, you got to do it. You got to do it.
No, but Stewart and Williams aren't the problem.
Yes, but no. Stewart and Williams are not, especially Williams. I think, honestly, if you're going to keep one of them, I'd keep Stewart. Williams is a bum, man. He's a bum. He had one good season. He's not very good. Get rid of him. And by the way, halfbacks are a dime a dozen in this league. Unless you've got a Adrian Peterson or a Ray Rice type, you don't pay to keep running backs unless they are top 5 in the league. Other than that, you let them go. You can sign them in the draft. I mean, you can find serviceable halfbacks in the 2nd and 3rd round every year in the draft, sometimes later. There is no reason to spend $43.5 million of guaranteed money, $79.5 total, on 2 running backs who are slightly above average. It doesn't make sense.
Do that.
Oh, and by the way, how many times do they run the ball a game? 10, 15 times? And some of those are Cam Newton carries. Yeah, I mean, they never run the ball. That's a problem. It's a problem when you put that much money in a position that you don't even use. The cap is just strung on them. And when they release these guys, which I think they'll release some people at the end of this season, they're going to take a cap hit, so they're really not even going to have any free agency places to move around until 2014. So they're stuck right now. I mean, if I was a potential GM, I mean, those jobs are hard to come by, so they'd be hard to pass up. But I don't know how interested or how eager I would to take this job. Cam's exciting. You've got someone to build around, but you're really not going to be able to start building through free agency for 2 years. And that's a minimum. That's if they take going to release these guys.
This team needs to improve via draft, and you can argue that under Marty Herney, Cam Newton was the only good draft pick he made.
John Beeson.
You could argue. I read it. No, I read it. He didn't draft John Beeson.
He hasn't been there long enough to have taken John Beeson? When did he get there?
I don't know. I was reading an article. It said you could make the case that Cam Newton... And by the way, call me when John Beeson plays 10 games in a year.
He's still not a bad draft pick is all I'm saying. Yes, I realize Beeson is injury prone, and that's unfortunate, but it wasn't like he came into the league with an injury problem. That just happened to happen. I mean, that's bad luck.
Fair enough. All right, I think that'll wrap up the Donk of the Week. Thanks again to our friends over at Creative T-Shirts and Imaging, or whatever you guys are called, on Hillsborough Street. Check them out. They've got badass stuff with basketball season right around the corner. You can get some really cool designs from them to rock at the PNC Arena. And we'll catch you next time.